Hey, everybody. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about habits and how the habits that we form make up our life. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you guys are returning, thank you guys so much for being here and checking in each time I post these videos and on the live streams. It's so important to touch base about our sobriety and where we're at with it. Habits, the things that we do, they form our life. And when we are in addiction, it's hard to acknowledge the fact that we are addicted to alcohol. Some of us are, really far into it. Some of us are just at the beginning of it. Some of us are right there in the middle of it. But we're all susceptible to becoming addicted to alcohol. But for me, for most of my drinking life, I kind of rang it up as a habit, a bad habit, but nonetheless, it was a habit that, I could take or leave at some point. The longer I got into my recovery, though, I started to recognize that I was addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to all of it, the ritual of it, the going to the binge drink session and the hangover, all of it. So where are you at with your drinking? Are you going to the bars? Are you enjoying, meeting up with friends or going to the sports bar and watching games? Or maybe you like, maybe if you're, into books, you like to meet up at book clubs and have wine, and you want to, you want to just enjoy that and really just meet with your friends, socialize. It's a time to get together to do that. Maybe you like to isolate and drink like I did. I like to just go home and drink. Sometimes I like to go into the bar. It's fun going to the bar. It was fun. I didn't go and drink 10 beers at the bar because normally I would drive home. So I wasn't going to get inebriated. But when I got home, that's when my real power drinking started. So maybe you're an at home drinker like I was. I think a lot of you guys that are on here that are subscribers from the poll that I did a few months ago are definitely at home drinkers mostly. And then I made a video about that too. If you want to go back and check that out, if you're new to the channel or if you are a subscriber and haven't seen that video yet, I would encourage you to do so. So, habits, I mean, how do they form our life? It matters what we put into our life. Like for me, the quitting the alcohol was the number one thing. I always kind of knew that it was my hang up. I mean, it was my drug of choice. It was what I turned to cope with life, to find enjoyment, to seek solace. It was everything. So is that where you're at with your drinking? Are you using alcohol as a crutch, as a way of to cope with life? Is it actually helping you with your daily struggles? Maybe you take that first couple drinks, maybe two or three drinks, and you feel that euphoric state. It feels good. We feel like our problems are kind of subsiding. Our anxiety is kind of being washed away. We're in this space where we're just feeling, in a meditative state where we're just, you know, feeling good. The problem is that is a short lived feeling. And then I don't know about where you guys are with it, but where I was with it, I was seeking that feeling for the rest of my day. I didn't go into a binge drink session. I didn't go into any drinking session ever thinking that I was just going to have one. If I was going to a party or a bar or a restaurant, like I said, I wasn't going to drink and drive because I got the DUI when I was 19 and I learned my lesson. I don't ever want to go through that whole legal battle ever again. It was a pain in the ass and I didn't want to do it again. But that was a blessing in disguise. It helped me realize that I was putting myself in jeopardy to get behind the wheel. And so I learned my lesson at a young age and I was thankful for that. But here I am, I'm an older person, and if you're going to the bar and you're drinking several drinks and you're getting behind the wheel, it's time to take a serious look at your drinking. It's dangerous for not just yourself, but it's a danger for everybody else. And a lot of times we'll use alcohol, and it's something that, it's not like smoking where when you smoke it affects everyone around you physically. It might not affect people to just ingest alcohol, but what it's doing is it's inebriating us, and that we may make bad choices, and it affects the people around us. That could be drinking and driving, but it could be as simple as our behavior changes. So maybe we get mean when we get drunk. We start, you know, talking about inappropriate things. Maybe we just get, we change, and that affects our family. It affects our friendships. It affects our relationships in general. It affects our social skills and all of it. And so I knew that there was lots of things that I needed to work on. I mean, really, really work on with things that were broken within me. And I knew that they were broken. And I knew they were broken from a very young age. So I had these habits, and these thought patterns, and I would use those patterns because they were what I knew. They were how I coped with life, how I dealt with people, how I dealt with life. But the drinking, that's something that I knew was the culprit. And so when I removed that habit or that addiction, I was able to really put a microscope on my other behaviors. So most of you guys that have been around the channel, and if you don't know, and if you haven't been here, I quit drinking. My rock bottom was a lash out at my family. It didn't just happen one night. I mean, it did. The final lash out did happen one night, but there was a lot of things that led up to that. It was years in the making. So it didn't matter where I was in my habits and my thought patterns. Those patterns and those unhealthy habits and behaviors built up over time. And so that is a huge thing to recognize. Like, it doesn't just, our life can change in a heartbeat, but maybe there's things that lead up to that. You know what I mean? So, like, I ended up working on my anger and irritability and my relationships and all the things that were important to me when I quit drinking and got rid of that daily ritual, that daily habit, that daily addiction. You know, my therapist used to say that alcoholism is a disease of volition. And it's true. I mean, we actively choose to pick up alcohol and use it for whatever reason. Whatever your reason is for drinking alcohol, I mean, it's personal, and it's, it's your reasoning. Uh, I know for me why I drank for many different reasons, but in the grand scheme of things, it was to hide. It was to not have to deal with life. I didn't think that there was much out there. I didn't, I didn't know that there was more to life than alcohol. And so that was the best part of quitting alcohol, was really finding what else was out there. And there's so much more. There's so much more. I made the thumbnail, and I'm at a park, and it's my favorite park in my area. It's like 15 minutes away. I come here probably 100 times a year. I get an annual pass. I come out here to think, just think clearly, uh, think about where I am with my life, with my recovery, with, um, you know, where I'm at with my faith. And it helps to have that daily, or that at least that weekly habit, where I take time out of my day to think about where I'm at with things, sit quietly or take a hike quietly. I'm constantly, I think we all are constantly bombarded. We always need noise. We always need, um, something to occupy our minds. We always need something. We're in that day and age where we have our phones, and it's on 24/7. If that's not on, the TV's on. If that's not on, the radio's on, or Alexa. I mean, all these things, and it's constant, and it's overwhelming. And those are the habits that I try to break off. And I'll share with you guys this particular week something that I noticed, which was last year at the beginning of the year, I started to one of my resolutions was to read more. I found an author that I liked. I read a series of her books, and then I liked the book so much that I picked up another one of her books, and then another one, and then another one. And she has like 30 books. By the end of the year, end of 2025, I've read half of her books. I think I read 14 of her books. And so my resolution this year is to finish all of her books. When I started reading them, I started buying them, and then I kind of started to feel like I was running out of room to put my books. I didn't have a bookshelf yet and things like that, so, and room for a bookshelf for that matter. So I stopped buying the books and I started renting them at the library. And I've had a book this whole time for this past year. And then this week, I didn't have a book because I picked up a couple of other books and I started reading one of them, and I didn't really couldn't get into it very much. So I returned it. I put a hold on another book, and I waited for it from like Monday to Thursday. Between Monday and Thursday, I found myself going insane with like scrolling on my phone, scrolling the news, looking for, constantly checking like my YouTube analytics, constantly like checking on my email and Facebook and all of that. And I was like, man, this is boring and it's exhausting. And then I would start to try to find like uh, stuff to watch, and occupy my time that way. And I just was like, man, this is so boring. And which leads me to, another idea, which was I was watching and I'm going to be doing a podcast here pretty soon, Sober Strong with Megan. You guys should check out her channel. I'll put a link down in the comments below or down in the description. And in 2 weeks, it's going to be on Valentine's Day, actually, of all days. But I picked that day because it was a morning, and that was the only morning one that I could get. And I like to do mornings in particular for a lot of the YouTube stuff. So at any rate, I watched one of her videos. There was one of the one of the podcasts, and she was interviewing Joey, and he was talking about his faith. And then I was reading some of the comments, and one of the comments said, I love that I loved the interview, but it sounded like you replaced one addiction with another as far as quitting drinking, but then turning to faith. And I couldn't disagree with that more. For me, I don't believe that that person that would make that comment truly understands what Christianity is to make that comment. But be that as it may, that's okay. That there's no judgment here on that. But for me, I look at that situation like, and I'm going to move my car here because the sun is starting to peek through this tree. So here we go. That's a little bit better. Um, that's okay. And so my whole thing with that is they don't understand that, and that's okay. But the thing is, they don't have to understand. People don't have to understand. People can be critical especially when I do like my live streams. There's some crazy comments on there, and people just don't get it. But that's okay. Like because I'm not doing what I'm doing for them. I'm doing what I'm doing for God, and then I happen to benefit. So that's why I do what I do. I mean, and I don't go talking about it very often, especially on the channel anymore. I really just this is about sobriety. It's about getting and staying sober. It's about being alcohol free 100% and living our best life. But I thought, there's been things over my almost 6 years of being alcohol free, and one in particular was like I was using This Naked Mind, the community, the book that I read by Annie Grace, and then I was, going on there, and I was spending like 2, 3, 4 hours a day sometimes on that platform. And after a couple years, I had to take a step back, and because I was thinking I'm spending way too much time on this. And, even though it's a healthy habit, maybe it's not so healthy to be on here and be that dependent on it to get me through my days. So maybe I need to step back. So I stepped back. I took about a month off, and it wasn't just by choice. There was some drama that went off, and I didn't want to be part of it. So that was the main reason. But when I came back, I took a different approach. I started to be more, instead of relying on them to help me more, to help me stay alcohol free, I started to be more of a inspiration. So I would post similar to what I post on our community posts, which were like sayings or memes or quotes, and then having my own kind of story to go along with that, and how I evolved and how I grew out of those habits, and I've formed better habits. And it's all about quality of life and our mental health, and filling in what we used to drink during those times. We fill in with healthier habits. And so that became a habit. I didn't spend more than like an hour a day on it anymore. I would post, and sometimes it would take me a half an hour to post there. I would post it, and then I might come back and read some of the comments throughout the day. But all in all, when I would look at my how much time I spent on it at the end of the day, it was like an hour. And that helped. I put a little bit of a threshold on it for myself, for my own well-being, and that did help. And so to get back to the beginning of this week, and then noticing myself this week and how my OCD gets in, starts taking control. I don't have that book that I could pick up now. Yes, I could go to the store and buy the book, and buy a book, um, but I didn't do that. I just felt like I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for the book that I ordered at the library, because that's the one I want to read next. But it was kind of a struggle, I'll be honest, and it did make me think: Am I that addicted to this particular author and these books? and and maybe I am. As soon as I got the book in last night, I started reading it, and I got about 20 or 30 pages in, and I was like, man, I missed this. And but you know what? Like, reading is a healthy habit. It's something that I'm not reading to escape. I'm just reading for pleasure. It's something I like to do, just as well as I like to watch shows or movies or sports or whatever. Yes, they're forms of entertainment, but you know, at the same time, I do spend time at work. I spend time at making YouTube videos, being on live streams, and coming up with content, and being on the community, and being on my Facebook community, and all these things. That to have a little bit of downtime is perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's a healthy habit, and it's something that I enjoy doing. Now, that doesn't mean that that isn't going to change over time. Today is all we have. We only have today. We don't have any guarantee of the future. The past is already in the past. So we are guaranteed right now today. And what are we going to do with our day? What are we going to do with our rituals? What are we going to do to fill in our day? Are we going to drink today? If you're going to drink today, I would condone taking a look at how you feel after one drink, after two drinks, after three drinks. Do you really feel that good? Do you feel good after you've had six or eight or 10 or more? Do you feel good in the morning? Question that. Do you really feel like, or when you go to the bar, is it as fun as you think it is? Like, we're meeting up with friends. That's already fun enough in and of itself. Do we need alcohol to add to that? Maybe those group of friends are people that you don't need to associate with anymore. Maybe they're stuck in their own ways. One of the things that I really learned over time when I first quit drinking, and then the years after that, it was like, people don't really care. I used to be so self conscious about what people thought of me. In the grand scheme of things, people don't care about what we're doing. And that goes along with drinking as well. On the flip side of that, they also don't really care about what we do with our life. So like they can do their own thing, and what works for them might work for them, but what works for us anymore is not alcohol, or not binge drinking, or not hooking up with, strangers, or as far as hookup culture goes, or all these things, that these habits that we form, that we don't think are really harming us, but in the long run they're building up to something that is not sustainable, not good, just like my drinking was. And when I got to the end of my drinking days, I realized this is not sustainable. So where are you at with your drinking? Are you drinking so much that you know that eventually it's going to lead to something bad? It's best to be proactive about that. Take matters into your own hands, and don't tempt fate and let that dictate where you're at with your life, and get to a point where you feel so ashamed or so guilty of your behavior, and take accountability of that, because man, it's freeing. It's a freeing feeling. As hard as it is, or was, to quit drinking and start to work on things and start to feel things again, and start to actually like cope with life without alcohol, and cope with people without drinking, difficult conversations and difficult situations. um, Man, the more we work on that and work through those things, and don't turn to alcohol to cope with that, and use alcohol to deal with that, we feel stronger, and it's just more freeing. It's a freeing feeling. And that's kind of why I decided to make that thumbnail what I did. And I'm smiling, I'm happy. And it's not like it's like that every single day. It's not. Uh, I have my days, I have my times when I'm tired, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm, whatever. But 99.9% of my time, I'm in good spirits. And it was never like that as a drinker. And I can only tell you that it's the alcohol that's fueling all the problems. It's not helping the problems. It's making all the problems 1,000 times more difficult, and more difficult to move on from later. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for sticking around. Uh, Stay tuned for my next video on Wednesday, and I hope you guys have a great sober day. We'll see you on the next one.